Kiwu Park stood alone in the biggest room he had ever seen. The wall stretched up so high that he could not see the top. Around him sat hundreds of strange beings from across the galaxy. Some looked like walking crystals. Others were made of gas that moved like clouds. A few had too many arms or eyes that glowed in the dark. Kiwu was Earth's ambassador. He wore his best black suit and kept his face calm. But inside, his heart was beating fast. Today, all these alien species would vote on whether humans could stay in the galaxy or be sent away forever. The trial had been going on for 3 months. Every day, different aliens stood up to say why humans were dangerous. They talked about Earth's wars and weapons. They showed videos of human soldiers fighting. They said humans were too violent and too curious for their own good. Dr. Bora Kim sat in the viewing area above the main floor. She was Earth's top scientist who studied alien life. She had spent 20 years learning about these creatures. Many of them had been her friends, but now they all seemed to hate her people. The Altarian delegate stood up to speak. His name was Veltar, and his body was made of blue crystal that rang like bells when he moved. "Humans are a threat," he said in his musical voice. "They ask too many questions. They want to change everything they touch. They fight wars over small pieces of land. What will they do when they have whole planets?" Bora wanted to scream. Yes, humans had fought wars, but they had also made peace. They had built hospitals and schools. They had sent music and art to the stars. Why did none of that matter? The Zephyrian speaker came next. She was a being made of purple gas that floated in a clear container. "Humans spread too fast," the gas being said. "In just 40 years, they went from 1 planet to 50 colonies. They take resources without asking. They change planets to suit themselves instead of adapting to the planets." More and more aliens spoke against humans. The mechanical nexus. Collective calculated that humans had a 97% chance of causing galactic war within 100 years. The peaceful harmony singers said human emotions were too loud and hurt their sensitive minds. Kiwu listened to it all. When his turn came to speak, he walked to the center of the room. His voice was clear and strong. "You say we are dangerous because we fight," he said, "but we only fight to protect what we love. You say we ask too many questions, but questions lead to answers that help everyone. You say we change things too much, but change can make life better." He looked around the room at all the different aliens. 40 years ago, you invited us to join you among the stars. We came in peace. We shared our medicine that saved millions of your people. We shared our music that you said was beautiful. We shared our food that you said was delicious. But now you want to throw us away because we are different from you. The room was very quiet. Kiwu could hear his own breathing. "We are not perfect," he continued. "We make mistakes, but we learn from them. We grow. We become better. Is that not what life is supposed to do?" But his words did not matter. One by one, the species voted. The Altarians voted to exile humans. The Zephyrians voted to exile humans. Even the gentle ones who had once called humans their favorite new friends voted to exile humans. Dr. Bora Kim watched the vote count go up on the big screen. Her eyes filled with tears. Species that her team had helped cure diseases were voting against them. Aliens whose children she had taught were turning their backs on humanity. The final count appeared on the screen. 783 votes to exile. 47 votes to let humans stay. 17 no votes. It was not even close. The council president, a tall being with 4 arms and skin like tree bark, stood up. "The vote is final," he announced. "Humanity has 1 galactic year to remove all people and ships from space beyond their home system. Any human found outside the Sol system after that time will be considered a hostile invader." Kiwu felt like the floor had disappeared under his feet. But he did not fall down. He straightened his shoulders and looked directly at the council president. "The galaxy has made its choice," he said in a voice that carried to every corner of the huge room. "Now humanity will make theirs." The word sent a strange feeling through the watching aliens. Something in Kiwu's voice made them wonder if they had just made a big mistake. Back on Earth, Admiral Tae-min Lee was in the Joint Command Center deep under the mountains of Korea. Around him sat leaders from every nation on Earth. They were all watching the vote on their screens. When the final count appeared, the room went silent. Then someone started crying. Soon many people were crying or shouting in anger. 40 years. Dr. Young-Soo Choi slammed his hand on the table. 40 years of peaceful contact. We helped them. We shared with them. And this is how they pay us. Back? Dr. Hee-jin Lim put her hand on his shoulder. She was thinking fast. Maybe this is not the end, she said quietly. Maybe this is just the beginning of something new. Admiral Lee stood up. He was a tall man with gray hair and kind eyes that had seen too much war. The aliens think they have won, he said. They think they have put us in our place, but they do not understand humans very well. What do you mean? Asked Prime Minister Yoon Ji-seo. Admiral Lee looked around the room at all the worried faces. They think exile is punishment, but maybe exile is freedom. They want us to stay in our little corner of space and never come out. But what if we use that time to become stronger? What if we use that time to become something they never expected? The room started to buzz with conversation. Dr. Choi was nodding. We learned so much from them. We know their technology. We know their weaknesses. We know their trade routes, added Intelligence Director Hyun-Soo Park. We know which systems have resources and which are empty. We know how they think, said Dr. Bo-ra Kim, who had just returned from the trial. They think, in groups, they follow rules, they hate surprises, but we humans are very good at surprises. Prime Minister Seo stood up. Are you all suggesting we should thank them for exiling us? No, said Admiral Lee. I am suggesting we should show them that exiling us was the biggest mistake they ever made. Over the next few hours, they made a plan. It was not a plan for revenge. It was not a plan to hide and feel sorry for themselves. It was a plan to use their exile as a chance to become something amazing. They would bring every human home from across the galaxy. But they would also bring home every piece of alien technology they could legally take. They would study it. They would improve it. They would make it better. They would build the strongest space fleet anyone had ever seen. They would find new planets that the aliens had missed. They would become so powerful that when they returned to the galaxy, no one could ignore them. The aliens made one big mistake, Admiral Lee said as the meeting ended. They thought exile would make us weak, but exile will make us strong. They wanted to get rid of us, but we will become impossible to get rid of. Dr. Hye-jin Lim smiled for the first time that day. When we come back to the stars, we will not come back as beggars asking for permission. We will come back as equals demanding respect. The plan was set. The exile would begin soon, but humanity was already thinking about the day it would end. And on that day, the galaxy would learn what humans could really do when they stopped trying to fit in and started being themselves. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem. They had no idea that they had just created their biggest challenge ever. Captain So Young-han looked out at the stars from the bridge of her ship. 6 months had passed since the galaxy voted to exile humanity. Now she was leading the first group of ships back to Earth. But this was not the sad retreat that the aliens expected. Her cargo holds were full, but not with the belongings of defeated people. Instead, they held something much more valuable. Copies of every alien technology that humans had legally gotten their hands on. Every computer file, every machine part, every scientific paper that aliens had shared with humans was now coming home. Captain, called out her communications officer, we're getting signals from the other ships. Everyone is ready to jump to the next system. So, Young nodded. Tell them to follow our lead, and remind everyone to stay calm when we meet the alien patrols. We are not doing anything wrong. The journey home was carefully planned. Admiral Tae-min Lee had worked out every detail. The humans would be polite and follow all the rules. They would not give the aliens any excuse to attack them, but they would also not act like they were ashamed or sorry. At each checkpoint, alien ships would stop the human vessels and scan them. The aliens were looking for stolen technology or hidden weapons. They found nothing wrong because there was nothing wrong to find, but what they did see made them nervous. The human ships were different now. Engineers like Dong-Hyun Kang had been working day and night to improve them. The old human ships had been built to copy alien designs. These new ships were built to be better than alien designs. Their engines are running too efficiently, reported a Zephyrian patrol leader. Their shields are stronger than they should be. Something is wrong here. But there was nothing wrong that broke any laws. Humans had simply taken alien technology and made it work better. This was not against the rules. It was just surprising. Engineer Dong-Hyun Kang was waiting at Mars when the ships arrived. Around the red planet, huge construction stations floated in space. Human workers in spacesuits moved like ants over the surface of these stations, building and rebuilding and improving. "Welcome home," Dong-Hyun said to Captain So-young when she docked. "Are you ready to see what we've been doing?" So-young followed him through the station. What she saw amazed her. The humans had taken every piece of alien technology they had ever seen and made it work in new ways. Alien power systems that had been elegant and simple were now robust and powerful. Alien computers that had been fast were now lightning quick. "How did you do all this so fast?" she asked. Dong-Hyun smiled. "The aliens taught us their technology, but they also taught us their limitations. They build things to work well enough. We build things to work as well as possible." Back on Earth, big changes were happening. Prime Minister Yoon Ji-seo stood before the United Nations for the last time. The old Earth government was ending. Something new was beginning. "We came to the stars offering friendship," she said to the assembled leaders. "We shared our knowledge and our culture. We helped solve their problems and heal their sick. And they threw us away like garbage." She paused and looked around the room. "But we are not garbage. We are human beings, and human beings do not give up. We adapt. We overcome. We become stronger." The new government that replaced the United Nations was unlike anything in human history. Director Ji-hoon Bae was put in charge of the Terran Advancement Initiative. This organization had one job: make sure humanity not only survived their exile but came out of it stronger than ever. "The aliens think they know us," Director Bae said at his first meeting. "They think we are violent and chaotic and weak. Let them think that. While they underestimate us, we will become something they never imagined." Dr. Min-ji Park led teams of scientists who worked 18 hours a day. They took apart every alien machine they could find. They studied how it worked. Then they built new machines that worked better. "The aliens are very smart," Dr. Park explained to her team. "But they think in straight lines. They solve problems the same way their ancestors did. We think in curves and circles and spirals. We find new ways to solve old problems." The work was not just about technology. Commander Jae-sung-oh was in charge of building humanity's new space infrastructure. In just 6 months, humans had built more space stations and factories than they had in the previous 20 years. "We are not just building ships and stations," Commander Oh told his workers. "We are building the foundation for humanity's future. Every rivet we place, every wire we connect, is a step toward the day when we return to the stars on our own terms." The alien observers who watched the human withdrawal were confused. They expected to see sad refugees fleeing with whatever they could carry. Instead, they saw an organized, purposeful movement of people who seemed to know exactly what they were doing. "They are not acting like exiles," reported Intelligence Officer Vextal to the Galactic Council. "They are acting like they are relocating by choice." The most disturbing reports came from alien traders who had worked with humans. These aliens found that they missed human goods and services more than they expected. Human medicine was better than alien medicine. Human food was more interesting than alien food. Human entertainment was more exciting than alien entertainment. "We may have made a mistake," admitted Counselor Quintal in a private meeting. "The humans were contributing more to galactic society than we realized. But it was too late to change the vote. The exile was final. Humanity had to leave galactic space, and they were doing it faster than anyone expected. Dr. Young-Soo Choi was working on the most important project of all. Deep in the mountains of Earth, he was building something. That would change everything, a communication system that worked without alien technology. The aliens control all the communication networks in the galaxy, he explained to his team. If we want to be truly independent, we need our own way to talk across the stars. His colleague, Dr. Hyojin Lim, was working on an even bigger problem, finding new places for humans to live. The aliens thought they were forcing humanity to stay in one small solar system forever, but Dr. Lim was studying star charts and looking for uninhabited systems where humans could build new colonies. The galaxy is huge, she said. The aliens have explored less than half of it. There are thousands of systems with planets where humans could live. We just need to find them without the aliens noticing. As the deadline for Exile approached, humanity was ready. Every human had returned to human space. Every piece of useful alien technology had been collected and studied. Every human ship had been upgraded and improved. Ambassador Kiwoo Park sent one final message to the Galactic Council. It was short and simple. The Exile begins today. You have seen the last of humanity as we were. When you see us again, we will be something new. The aliens did not understand what he meant. They thought the Exile was an ending. But for humanity, it was a beginning. Admiral Lee stood on the bridge of the new flagship of the human fleet. Around him, officers from every nation on Earth worked together with a purpose they had never had before. Set course for the edge of the system, he ordered. All ships are to maintain communication silence. From this moment forward, we follow. No rules but our own. The great withdrawal was complete. Humanity had left galactic space as ordered. But they had not left as broken refugees. They had left as a people with a plan. The aliens thought they had solved their human problem. They had no idea that their human problem was just beginning to grow. In the months to come, the galaxy would start to notice that something was missing. Trade routes that had included human goods were less profitable. Scientific advances that had relied on human creativity slowed down. The energy and excitement that humans had brought to galactic civilization was gone. But humanity was not gone. They were just getting started. In the darkness between the stars, they were building something that would surprise everyone. The Exile was not their punishment. It was their opportunity, and they were going to make the most of it. 5 years had passed since humanity's exile began. The galaxy called them the silent years because no one heard anything from human space. The borders of the Sol system had become like a wall. No signals got out. No ships were seen leaving. It was as if humanity had simply disappeared. But humanity was far from quiet. Admiral Sang-wook Kim stood in the command center of Olympus Station, the largest space station ever built by humans. Through the massive windows, he could see hundreds of ships unlike anything the galaxy had ever produced. These were not copies of alien designs. These were purely human creations. The ships looked different from anything aliens had built. Where alien vessels were smooth and curved, human ships were angular and practical. Where alien ships followed traditional designs that had not changed for thousands of years. Human ships incorporated new ideas that had been invented just months before. "Admiral," called out his aide, "the morning reports are ready. All construction projects are on schedule." Sang-wook nodded. The transformation of human space had been incredible. In just 5 years, humans had built more infrastructure than most alien species built in centuries. The reason was simple. Humans were in a hurry. Chief Engineer Yoo-jin Choi had given the new ships a name: synthesis ships. They combined principles learned from dozens of different alien species, but they were improved by human engineering. The Kyo aliens had taught humans the basics, but humans had taken those basics and made them extraordinary. The Zephyrians taught us about energy flow, Yoo-jin explained to a group of new engineers. The Altarians taught us about structural integrity. The Nexus Collective taught us about computer systems. But we put all these lessons together in ways none of them ever imagined. The result was ships that could outrun, outmaneuver, and outfight anything the galaxy had. But more importantly, they could operate independently for years without needing any outside support. Dr. Woo-jin Lee had made the breakthrough that changed everything. Working in secret laboratories on the dark side of the moon, he had developed quantum-fold communication networks. For the first time since their exile, humans could talk to each other across vast distances without using alien technology. This changes everything, Dr. Lee explained to the Terran Council. Now we can coordinate operations across multiple star systems in real time. We can build an empire without anyone knowing about it. The Quantum Fold Network enabled Captain Kyung Ho Yoon to lead humanity's first secret expeditions beyond the solar system. His small fleet of specially modified ships used routes carefully planned to avoid alien patrols. They moved like ghosts through empty space, finding systems that the aliens had never bothered to explore. The galaxy is bigger than the aliens. Realize, Captain Yoon reported back to Earth. There are hundreds of systems with useful planets that no one has claimed. They are ours for the taking. These expeditions were technically not violations of the Exile. The Exile only prohibited humans from participating in galactic civilization. It did not prohibit them from exploring empty space or settling on uninhabited planets. Dr. Na Young Shin led the teams that studied these new worlds. She specialized in finding planets that other species had ignored because they were too difficult to live on. Planets with extreme weather, dangerous radiation, or unusual gravity were perfect for humanity because humans were experts at adapting to difficult conditions. The aliens look for planets that are easy to live on, Dr. Shin explained. But easy planets make weak people. Hard planets make strong people. We will take the hard planets and make them into paradises. The first secret colony was established on a world the exploration team named New Sol. It was a planet with gravity twice as strong as Earth's, and weather that changed from freezing to boiling in a matter of hours. Any alien species would have considered it uninhabitable. But humans saw it as a challenge. Within 2 years, New Sol had a population of 50,000 and was producing its own food, water, and manufactured goods. The colony was completely self-sufficient and completely hidden from galactic observation. Intelligence Director Hyun-Soo Park oversaw a network of spies and observers throughout galactic space. These were humans who had chosen to remain in alien territory when the exile began. Officially, they were former traders and diplomats who had given up their human citizenship. Unofficially, they were the eyes and ears of humanity. The aliens are starting to worry, Director Park reported to the Terran Council. Trade routes that used to include human goods are struggling. Some species are openly regretting the exile vote. The intelligence network provided a steady stream of information about galactic politics, technology, and economics. More importantly, they reported on the aliens' growing concerns about humanity's silence. They expected us to try to sneak back into galactic space, one agent reported. They expected us to beg for forgiveness. They never expected us to simply disappear. The disappearance was making some aliens nervous. Pirates and criminals who tried to probe the edges of human space simply vanished. Their ships were found later, empty and drifting, with no signs of violence. The crews were gone, but there were no bodies and no distress signals. It's like they just decided to leave their ships and walk away, reported one investigating officer. But that's impossible in deep space. What the aliens did not know was that these criminals were being captured by human patrol ships using technology that made them invisible to alien sensors. The prisoners were taken to secret human colonies where they were given a choice: work for humanity or spend the rest of their lives in comfortable but secure detention. Most chose to work. The information they provided about criminal networks and illegal trade routes was invaluable to human intelligence operations. Philosopher-strategist Min Ho Jang spent his time thinking about what humanity was becoming during the silent years. He wrote reports that were read by every human leader. "We are not the same species that was exiled 5 years ago," he wrote. "We are becoming something new, something that has never existed before in the galaxy." The transformation was not just technological, it was cultural and psychological. Humans were developing a new sense of unity and purpose. The exile had forced them to work together in ways they never had before. "The aliens thought they were punishing us," Minho continued, "but they were actually giving us the greatest gift possible, the chance to become our true selves without outside interference." The silent years were also years of preparation. Human factories worked around the clock to build ships, weapons, and equipment. Human universities trained new generations of scientists, engineers, and soldiers. Human colonies grew and multiplied in systems the aliens did not even know existed. By the end of the 5th year, humanity had quietly become one of the largest spacefaring civilizations in the galaxy. They controlled more systems than most alien empires. They had more ships than most alien fleets. They had better technology than most alien species, but none of this was visible to galactic civilization. To the aliens, human space was still a black box that revealed nothing about what was happening inside. The few aliens who tried to investigate were politely but firmly turned away by automated defense systems that appeared out of nowhere and then vanished just as quickly. The message was always the same. This is human space. You are not welcome here. Please leave immediately. As the 5th year of exile came to an end, the Terran Council met to discuss the next phase of their plan. The silent years had been about building strength. The years to come would be about using that strength. "We are ready," Admiral Kim reported. "Our fleets are twice the size of any alien fleet. Our technology is decades ahead of alien technology. Our colonies are strong and self-sufficient. The question now," said Director Bay, "is how we want to return to galactic attention. Do we want to be diplomatic? Do we want to be dramatic? Do we want to be subtle or obvious?" Dr. Lim smiled. "I think we should be human. Let's surprise them." The plan they developed was typically human, bold, creative, and completely unexpected. They would not sneak back into galactic space. They would not beg for readmission to galactic civilization. They would not apologize for anything. Instead, they would do something that no one could ignore and no one could stop. They would force the galaxy to pay attention to them on human terms. The silent years were ending. The galaxy was about to discover what humanity had become when left alone to grow. And the discovery would change everything for everyone. The aliens had wanted humanity to disappear. Instead, humanity had transformed into something amazing. The exile was over, but humanity's real adventure was just beginning. The first sign that the silent years were ending came when Captain Sujin-Oh arrived at Kepler Station in a ship that should not have existed. Kepler Station was one of the busiest trading hubs in the galaxy. Ships from hundreds of species came and went every day. The station's traffic controllers had seen every type of vessel imaginable, but they had never seen anything like the ship that appeared on their sensors. The vessel was clearly human in design, but it moved through space in ways that defied everything the aliens knew about physics. It seemed to bend space around itself, sliding through dimensions that should not have been accessible to any ship. Its hull absorbed sensor scans instead of reflecting them, making it nearly invisible to most detection systems. Trade Administrator Claxtil was a nervous Centauri who had run Kepler Station for 15 years. He had dealt with smugglers, pirates, and hostile alien fleets. But when Captain O requested permission to dock, his hands were shaking. "This is Captain Sujin-Oh of the Earthship Determination," came the voice over the communication system, requesting standard docking procedures for trade purposes. Claxtil's voice cracked when he replied, "Human ships are prohibited from galactic space. Your people are in exile. The exile prohibited us from participating in galactic political affairs." Captain O replied calmly, "Trade is a private matter between consenting parties. Please assign us a docking bay." The legal implications sent shockwaves through the station. Technically, Captain O was right. The exile had focused on political and military activities. Pure commerce had been left in a gray area, and humanity was now exploiting that ambiguity with surgical precision. Within hours, word of the human ship's arrival had reached the Galactic Council. Emergency meetings were called. Legal experts argued about the exact wording of the exile decree. Military commanders wanted to send ships to arrest the human crew, but the human ship had not broken any laws. It was engaged in legitimate trade, selling goods that were desperately needed at prices that were surprisingly fair. By the time the council finished arguing about what to do, Captain O had completed her business and left. Economic analyst Il-Sung Kwan had spent the silent years studying galactic trade patterns. He knew exactly which goods and services the galaxy had missed most during humanity's absence. The ships that followed Captain O's initial voyage carried precisely those items, but they were improved versions that quickly dominated their market segments. Human medicine that could cure diseases thought incurable. Human entertainment that was more exciting than anything aliens had experienced in centuries. Human technology that solved problems the aliens had struggled with for millennia. Where did they get this? Demanded Zephyrian Trade Minister Velkos, examining a human-made atmospheric processor that was 10 times more efficient than the best alien equivalent. This technology is decades ahead of anything we have. The answer was simple but disturbing. Humans had taken alien technology and made it better. Much better. Ambassador Kiwu Park, now older but no less determined, established humanity's new diplomatic presence with a mobile embassy ship called the Phoenix. The ship never stayed in any system long enough for the Council to officially protest its presence, but it was always somewhere in galactic space. "We are not asking for permission to return," Ambassador Park explained in a message broadcast throughout the galaxy. "We are informing you that we have returned. The exile is over because we say it is over." The audacity was breathtaking. Humanity was not apologizing for anything. They were not begging for forgiveness. They were simply announcing that they were back and that they intended to engage with the galaxy on their own terms. The Council's response was swift but confused. Director Veltar, now promoted to Chief Enforcement Officer, ordered all human ships to leave galactic space immediately. But when enforcement fleets moved to intercept human vessels, they found nothing. The human ships seemed to vanish and reappear, at will. They would be detected in one system and then show up in another system days later, having traveled distances that should have taken weeks. They stayed just within the technical boundaries of the exile terms while demonstrating capabilities that made those boundaries meaningless. "How are they doing this?" Veltar demanded of his science staff. "Their ships are moving faster than light should allow. They are bending space in ways our best scientists say are impossible." The answer came when Admiral Taemin Lee demonstrated humanity's new capabilities to the galaxy in the most dramatic way possible. A Zephyrian patrol squadron tried to force a human trader to submit to inspection. The human ship did not fight back. It did not run away. Instead, it created a localized gravitational field that left the alien ships helpless, while it calmly continued to its destination. The alien ships were not damaged, their crews were not hurt, but they were completely powerless to stop the human vessel. It was a demonstration of technological superiority that could not be ignored. "Impossible," whispered Galactic Science Director Quintal as he reviewed the sensor data. "They have somehow learned to manipulate gravity itself. This is technology we have only theorized about." The implications were staggering. If humans could control gravity, they could control space and time. They could make their ships incredibly fast, incredibly maneuverable, and incredibly difficult to attack. They had not just caught up to galactic technology during their exile. They had surpassed it in ways that seemed almost magical. Reports flooded in from across the galaxy. Human ships appearing in systems thought to be empty. Human colonies discovered on planets thought to be uninhabitable. Human technology that solved problems no one else had been able to solve. But the most unsettling report came from strategic advisor Hyrie Moon. "The humans have not just returned to space," she told the BU Emergency Council session. "They have never really left. Our intelligence suggests they have been secretly expanding throughout the galaxy during the entire exile period." The evidence was overwhelming. Star charts showing human settlements in dozens of systems, trade records indicating human goods, had been available in black markets throughout the silent years. Communication intercepts suggesting a vast human intelligence network that had been operating under the aliens' noses. "How many systems do they control?" asked Council President Zarthak. "We don't know," Advisor Moon replied. "But initial estimates suggest it might be more than any single alien empire." The revelation sent panic through the galactic government. Humanity had used their exile not as punishment but as an opportunity. While the aliens thought they had solved their human problem, Humans had been quietly becoming one of the most powerful forces in the galaxy. Fleet Admiral Tae-hyung Go coordinated humanity's response to the aliens' growing alarm, but instead of military threats or diplomatic protests, humanity did something completely unexpected. They sent an invitation. The invitation arrived simultaneously at every major galactic capital. The Terran Confederation cordially invites representatives of all galactic species to attend a trade and technology exposition at coordinates 247.8 by 156.2 by 89.7. Come see what humanity has been working on during our vacation from galactic politics. The coordinates were in empty space, far from any known system, but when long-range sensors were pointed at the location, they detected something that should have been impossible: a massive artificial construct that had not been there a week earlier. They built a space station overnight? Demanded Veltar. A station that size should take years to construct. Not overnight, corrected the sensor technician. It appeared fully formed in less than 6 hours. Either they moved it there from somewhere else, or they built it using technology we have never seen before. Council President Zarthak faced an impossible choice: ignore the invitation and risk being left out of whatever humanity was planning, or attend the exposition and acknowledge that humanity was now an equal power in the galaxy. What do our military advisors say? He asked. Admiral Kletch reviewed his intelligence reports. Sir, our analysis suggests that humanity now possesses military capabilities that equal or exceed our own. Any attempt to force them back into exile would likely result in a war we might not win. The words hung in the air like a death sentence for the old galactic order. The species that had been exiled for being too dangerous had spent their exile becoming powerful enough to challenge the entire galaxy. But humanity was not threatening war. They were offering trade, technology, and cooperation. The invitation was polite and friendly. It was also impossible to ignore. Prepare a delegation, President Zarthak ordered finally. We will attend this exposition, but we go prepared for anything. As ships from across the galaxy began moving toward the coordinates humanity had provided, one thing was clear. The galaxy was about to discover what humans could really accomplish when they stopped trying to fit in and started being themselves. The silent years were over, the return had begun, and nothing would ever be the same again. The space station that greeted the arriving alien delegates was beyond anything they had imagined. Haven Station stretched for kilometers in every direction, its design a perfect blend of human engineering and artistic vision. The structure seemed to grow organically from a central core, with sections that moved and shifted like a living organism. Ambassador Ki-Woo Park stood in the main docking bay as ships from across the galaxy arrived. He was older now, his hair gray and his face lined with the years of exile. But his eyes were bright with satisfaction as he watched alien leaders step onto human-built floors for the first time in 5 years. Welcome to Haven Station, he said, to each delegation. Welcome to humanity's vision of the future. Galactic Council President Zarthak was among the first to arrive. His 4 arms gestured nervously as he looked around the docking bay. Everything was familiar yet strange. The technology was clearly advanced, but it felt different from anything in galactic civilization. How did you build this so quickly? He asked Ambassador Park. We have had 5 years to learn and grow, Park replied with a smile. Time is a wonderful teacher when you are motivated to learn. Dr. Yoon-suk Kim, now Director of Applied Sciences, led the first tour group through the station. The alien delegates followed her in silence, their eyes wide with amazement at what they saw. The station's sections could reconfigure themselves based on need. Walls became transparent or opaque with a thought. Gravity could be adjusted in any room to accommodate any species. The air could be modified to provide the perfect atmosphere for any visitor. This is adaptive infrastructure, Dr. Kim explained as they watched a room transform itself from a meeting area into a laboratory. The station learns what you need and provides it automatically. A Zephyrian delegate, her gaseous form shimmering with anxiety, asked the question they were all thinking. This technology, where did it come from? We have never seen anything like it. Dr. Kim stopped walking and turned to face the group. "It came from you," she said simply. "All of you. Every species here contributed something to this station. The Altarians taught us about crystal matrices. The Zephyrians showed us how to manipulate gases and energy fields. The Nexus Collective gave us lessons in computational systems." She gestured around them at the marvel of engineering that surrounded them. "We took everything you taught us and put it together in new ways. We did not just copy your technology, we improved it. We made it work better than you ever imagined it could." The tour continued through sections that demonstrated technology the aliens thought was impossible. Quantum manufacturing that could create any object from raw energy. Medical systems that could heal any injury and cure any disease. Computer networks that seemed to think and feel like living beings. But the real shock came when Economic Minister Jun-Ho Lim presented humanity's trade proposal to the assembled delegates. The meeting was held in a vast amphitheater where every species could sit comfortably in their preferred environment. "We are not here to ask for permission to rejoin galactic civilization," Minister Lim announced. "We are here to offer you the chance to join something new." The proposal was revolutionary. Instead of trying to fit back into the existing galactic system, humanity was offering to create parallel relationships with individual species and organizations. They would provide technology, services, and goods, but on their own terms, through their own networks. "You exiled us because we did not fit into your galaxy," Minister Lim continued. "So we built our own galaxy, and now we invite you to be part of it." The economic implications were staggering. Humanity was offering trade agreements that would benefit every species involved, but these agreements would bypass the traditional galactic government structures entirely. Altarian Delegate Veltar stood up, his crystal body ringing with agitation. "This is impossible. You cannot simply ignore the Galactic Council and create your own trade networks." "Why not?" asked Minister Lim. "You ignored us when you voted for our exile. We are simply returning the favor." Chief Researcher Bo Young Ko presented the scientific findings that had made humanity's transformation possible. She showed the delegates how human scientists had taken basic galactic knowledge and expanded it in directions no one had ever considered. "You taught us that cooperation and conformity were the galaxy's greatest strengths," Dr. Ko explained. "But you also taught us something else. You taught us that diversity and independence were our greatest strengths. We chose to embrace what makes us different instead of trying to hide it." The presentation included demonstrations of technology that solved problems the galaxy had considered unsolvable for thousands of years. Energy sources that worked in any environment. Communication systems that could translate not just language, but also thought and emotion. Transportation methods that made distance almost meaningless. Military observer Kletch filed reports that sent shockwaves through the galactic defense establishment. Human ships were not just technologically advanced, they operated with a flexibility and creativity that made them nearly impossible to predict or counter. "Their entire approach to space combat is different," he reported. "They do not follow standard tactical patterns. They improvise. They adapt. They use their environment as a weapon. Fighting them would be like fighting chaos itself." But humanity was not threatening anyone. In fact, they were offering to share their military technology for peaceful purposes. Defensive systems that could protect planets from asteroids. Propulsion systems that could move entire space stations. Weapons that could destroy hazardous materials without harming anything else. The final session of the exposition was led by President Ji Woo-no, the elected leader of humanity's new confederation of worlds and stations. She was a small woman, with a quiet voice, but when she spoke, everyone listened. "5 years ago, you voted to exile us because you feared what we might become," she said. "You were right to fear us, but not for the reasons you thought." She gestured to the alien delegate sitting before her. "You feared we would conquer you with our weapons. Instead, we offer to protect you with our technology. You feared we would steal your resources. Instead, we offer to help you find new resources you never knew existed. You feared we would destroy your culture. Instead, we offer to help you preserve and share your culture in ways you never imagined." The broadcast of her speech reached every corner of the galaxy. "We have become exactly what you feared. a species that refuses to be limited by the boundaries. Others accept, but we use our freedom not to dominate others but to lift everyone up with us. She stood up and looked directly at the camera that was transmitting her words across the stars. We offer our hand in partnership to any who will take it. We offer our respect to all who will give it. And we promise our protection to any who need it. The choice facing the galaxy was clear. They could continue to treat humanity as exiles and risk being left behind as humans forged ahead independently. Or they could find a way to work with a species that had transformed rejection into unprecedented growth. The votes that followed were not about humanity's exile. That era was over, whether the Council recognized it or not. The votes were about whether individual species wanted to be part of humanity's new vision for the galaxy. One by one, species began to sign separate agreements with humanity. The gentle ones, who had regretted their exile vote for years, were the first. The peaceful harmony singers followed. Soon, even some of the species that had voted for exile were quietly negotiating their own deals with human representatives. Admiral Tae-Min Lee watched the proceedings from the station's command center. Around him, displays showed the real extent of humanity's transformation. Hundreds of colonies, thousands of ships, technology that was advancing at an exponential rate. The galaxy wanted us gone because we would not fit into their system, he said to his staff. So we built a better system and invited them to join us. The old galactic order was crumbling. Not through war or conquest, but through simple obsolescence. Humanity had created something better, and everyone could see it. In his private quarters, Admiral Lee made his final log entry about the exile period. They wanted us gone because we would not fit into their galaxy. So we built our own galaxy and invited them to visit. The question now is whether they are wise enough to accept that the universe is big enough for both approaches. The exposition lasted for 1 week. When it ended, the galaxy was fundamentally changed. Humanity had returned to the stars not as the desperate exiles they had once been, but as the leaders of a new kind of civilization. The exile was over. The age of human partnership had begun, and the galaxy would never be the same again. Some species chose to join humanity's new networks immediately. Others decided to wait and see what would happen. A few refused to have anything to do with humans at all. But everyone understood that the galaxy now had 2 centers of power, the old galactic civilization that moved slowly and cautiously, and the new human civilization that moved quickly and boldly. The future would be written by whichever approach proved more successful, and humanity was confident they knew which one that would be. They had learned the most important lesson of all. Sometimes the best way to join something is to build something better and let others decide if they want to join you instead.